Yesterday on Meet the Press, Russia's foreign minister underscored how far apart Ukraine and Russia remain even after efforts for peace were made by the White House. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Hello, Alice. How far are the gaps, and does it put a damper on the president's hope for a swift end to this war in Ukraine?
Good morning, Chesley. It does seem to, because we heard from Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, really a very established figure in Russia, who's one of the few people who can kind of speak with some kind of authority on behalf of the Putin administration there. He said that there is no meeting planned between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky. And he said that Putin was willing to meet with Zelensky when the agenda would be ready for a summit. And he said the agenda is not ready at all. He also noted that key issues, including security guarantees for Ukraine and disputes over territory, remain unresolved, accusing Zelensky of being inflexible, of saying no to everything, and in fact, really attacking the legitimacy of Zelensky's leadership in Ukraine. That in itself may be one of the most troubling aspects, because he said, how can we meet with a person who is pretending to be a leader? And if they're not going to recognize him as the true leader of Ukraine, then will they ever overcome that?
Yeah. Also on Meet the Press yesterday, Alice, was J.D. Vance. He was confident that the U.S. could still broker a deal to end the war. Given all that has been said now and all that's on the table, is that still realistic?
Yeah, I mean, these are the two very different views that are emerging now as we've seen this urgent push for diplomacy over the past couple of weeks. You have those new statements from Russia, but then from Vice President J.D. Vance, he pointed to progress after President Trump met separately with Russian President Putin and with Ukrainian President Zelensky, and called that the energetic diplomacy that's going to bring this war to a close. He also was asked on NBC's Meet the Press whether Russia is stringing President Trump along, and he said not at all, that he thinks the Russians have made significant concessions to President Trump for the first time in 3.5 years of this conflict, and said that the administration would continue to press ahead until it reaches a resolution or reaches a brick wall. He said even if it reaches a brick wall, it will continue to push for negotiations. That brick wall, though, is looking fairly sturdy this morning.
Yeah. Let's switch gears here a little bit, Allison. We got some new developments that the president has pushed to deploy National Guard troops on the streets of America in some American cities. What's the latest on that?
So beginning here in Washington, where we know there have been National Guard troops for the past couple of weeks now, they are now armed. For the first time overnight, we started to see firearms on the hips of these National Guard troops who are out and about, mainly pistols, but in rare occasions there are also rifles being carried. They are officially authorized, according to a defense official, for self-protection and as a last resort in response to an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. And they're also, the National Guard troops that are armed are wearing MP patches to signify their role as military police. That's another interesting development. At least 6 Republican-led states are also sending in their own troops as reinforcements, and President Trump is now promising to expand the crackdown beyond the nation's capital. He's spoken about New York, we saw that there was some action in Los Angeles already. He's spoken about Baltimore, and specifically Chicago, he said, would be the next one up. Violent crime in Chicago has often drawn headlines, but according to the city's police statistics, murders, robberies, and shootings are all down now more than 30% this year, and the Democratic mayor in that city is pushing back forcefully against any movement to bring troops in there.
All right, Alice Barr, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.